Coach Robert Saleh after losing to the Vikings in London. Today, we heard from Aaron Rodgers for the first
one sentence in response to it, and that is that I resent any of those accusations. Woody has no obligation to let me know of what his plans are.
I don't typically make a lot of videos like this. Once I bring you guys the breaking news and we more or less close a topic on this channel, then I'll typically move on to different topics. The thing is, so much went down behind the scenes ever since we got the news that Robert Saleh got fired by the New York Jets that I felt like it deserved another video, to be honest. So before we get to the content, we are almost at 1 million subscribers. Make sure you subscribe and turn on our notifications to help us get there. We've been making a bigger push on Snapchat as well. If you guys want to see what I'm up to behind the scenes, maybe some of my workout routines or my meal plan, so you can check me out there. Now that we get all that out of the way. We made over $1,000 playing Prize Picks over the past week. We hit on Thursday night and on Sunday, and I would have hit a third time if Aaron Jones didn't get injured. Fortunately, Prize Picks refunds you when a player gets injured. I give away my picks for free on Instagram and now on Snapchat. And make sure you use my promo code Mikerophone to get a free $50 when you make a lineup of $5 or more. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? This past Sunday, the New York Jets faced off against the Minnesota Vikings in a London game. Typically, whenever two teams go to London, things get a little wacky, primarily because of the jet lag involved in these games. And in this game, Aaron Rodgers had one of his worst performances to date. The man threw 3 interceptions in this game, including a pick 6 in the end of the first quarter, and clearly New York Jets fans were very concerned about the state of the Jets offense. My assumption throughout the season is the New York Jets offense wasn't clicking for a multitude of reasons. One being Nathaniel Hackett, an individual that has gotten so many chances in the NFL, but is still employed in the NFL despite us understanding that he's just not good at coaching 2 years ago when he was with the Denver Broncos. I mean, when you're an offensive coordinator that got promoted to head coach, but you need the home crowd to count down the play clock so you could get the snap off in time,
with the fans counting down the play clock.
You don't have to be a genius to know that this is clearly not a good offensive coordinator. So Nathaniel Hackett was fired as the head coach of the Denver Broncos and eventually got an opportunity as the offensive coordinator of the New York Jets after they traded for Aaron Rodgers. Now, it's important to note that Robert Saleh never wanted to hire Nathaniel Hackett as his offensive coordinator. As a matter of fact, Saleh wanted to keep Mike LaFleur as his offensive coordinator. But since Mike LaFleur was having trouble with Zach Wilson 2 years ago.
First of all, it stinks, because I know what kind of competitor he is and I know what kind of man he is, and I full-heartedly mean that. I got to do a better job. I got to do a better job for him. I got to do a better job for the offense. I truly believe it starts with me, it ends with me. So I got to figure out a way to reset him, get him back to playing fundamentally sound football, and more importantly, just consistent football, because he's done some really good things. I haven't done a good enough job to get the consistency out of him. So that starts and ends with me.
As a result, Woody Johnson decided to move on from Mike LaFleur. But Robert Saleh didn't want Nathaniel Hackett either. Aaron Rodgers wanted Nathaniel Hackett because, well, you know how Aaron Rodgers feels about Nathaniel Hackett.
Look, that's the number one thing. There's nobody in the building that brings me more joy or is more fun to be around than Nathaniel Hackett. Hack has been a really important part of our culture change and a part of our success on offense. I love him. Hope he doesn't go anywhere. Unless I do.
But since Aaron Rodgers wanted Nathaniel Hackett, Robert Saleh decided to hire him and decided to just give up the offense to Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett. Unfortunately, Aaron Rodgers got injured during year 1, and the Jets really struggled offensively, but defensively, they were one of the best teams in the NFL, and how could you not be? When you have an individual with Robert Saleh's track record, when you have the best defensive tackle in the NFL in Quinnen Williams, when you have Sauce Gardner and CJ Mosley, I mean, it's easy to see why this would be one of the better defenses in the NFL. And so far this year, they are one of the best defenses in the NFL. Currently, the New York Jets ranked 22nd in EPA per play on offense and 5th in EPA per play on defense. But for some reason, following their offensive struggles, they decided to fire Robert Saleh and promote their defensive coordinator, which is even more shocking. But you guys already knew all that. What's very surprising about this, and a huge reason why I decided to make this video, is immediately once the news came out about Robert Saleh getting fired, everybody immediately pointed the blame finger to one person, Aaron Rodgers. And it's not hard to see why, primarily because Aaron Rodgers had a situation like this with Mike McCarthy. Aaron Rodgers has a history of being a bit of a diva when he doesn't get his way. And so far, Aaron Rodgers has made a bit of a public spectacle about his chemistry with the New York Jets, whether it's not hugging Robert Saleh on national TV or this interview shortly after.
Robert said that might be something you guys have to dial back a little bit. Is that something you think could potentially help the situation?
It's one way to do it. The other way is hold him accountable.
And what's interesting is, according to Mike Florio, Robert Saleh was making a move to try to improve the offense. Because if you take a look at Nathaniel Hackett's offenses so far, there's nothing that could help the quarterback at all whatsoever. There's no stacks, there's no bunches, there's no motion. It's just everybody just standing still, hoping Aaron Rodgers could make magic happen. So Robert Saleh noticed this and noticed the frustration from the New York Jets, primarily from their offense, because on paper, this team should be good offensively. You have a top 3 halfback in Breece Hall. You have a top 5 wide receiver in Garrett Wilson. You have Mike Williams, who when healthy is one of the best targets that you could have at the wide receiver position. You have Allen Lazard, who has had a history with Aaron Rodgers, so that chemistry was expected to translate over. Tyron Smith is a little bit older, but offensive linemen tend to be able to play until their late 30s and even their early 40s if you happen to be Andrew Whitworth or Jason Peters. I mean, this team made significant strides offensively, and on paper they have a great offensive team. It's the scheme that isn't working out for them. So Robert Saleh's response to this was he was just going to demote Nathaniel Hackett, and he was going to elevate passing game coordinator Todd Downing to become the game day play caller. This didn't mean Hackett was being fired in the classic sense, but it was going to be his decision to whether he stayed. So pretty much at a meeting on Tuesday morning, Saleh told the coaching staff,
"Hey guys, Todd Downing's gonna be our play caller,"
which demoted Nathaniel Hackett. And immediately after the meeting, Saleh found out that he was going to get fired. The worst part is this man was escorted out of the building like he was some sort of trespasser, which is just not the right way to do it, man. It just speaks so much about the Jets culture. But immediately, you heard multiple instances that Aaron Rodgers wasn't involved. But at the same time, there's something really sketchy going on here, because Aaron Rodgers' appearance on the Pat McAfee show would get moved over by a day. I wonder why. And then on Wednesday, he would have this to say about the situation.
I did talk to Woody. Woody called me on Monday night. We had a short conversation, and he just asked me how I was doing. So he just called and was asking how I was doing. The game and how disappointed I was in my performance, and that I'm going to play better and we're going to get this thing turned around, and then we hung up.
So Woody Johnson had a phone call conversation with Aaron Rodgers, and he just asked him how he was doing, and he just said,
"Hey, you played terribly that day."
And that was about it. There was no other conversations between the team owner and the team's star QB, which in my opinion is just so difficult to believe. You're telling me the owner just called Aaron Rodgers after a terrible performance and kept him completely in the dark about him thinking about firing his head coach? He didn't go to his star QB once and say,
"Hey, I'm thinking we let go of Rob and promote our defensive coordinator to our head coach. Do you think this is a good idea or not?"
You don't think Aaron Rodgers had a single say in that? I just find that hard to believe. They're claiming that's the case, but you're telling me they had this conversation Monday night and then Robert Saleh happened to get fired on Tuesday? It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But Aaron Rodgers would even double down on this.
As far as any of the ridiculous allegations out there, I resent any of those accusations because they're patently false. And it's interesting the amount of power that people think that I have, which I don't.
And this is why I think Aaron Rodgers is lying to your face. Because do you remember before Aaron Rodgers was traded to the the New York Jets? He literally gave the Packers a list of players he wants to play with, including Alan Lazard. Alan Lazard wasn't a necessary signing at all whatsoever. Nathaniel Hackett was hired as his offensive coordinator. You think they just decided, hey, we're gonna take this terrible head coach from the Denver Broncos that quite literally made Russell Wilson look like a shell of his former self and hire him as our offensive coordinator? No, that was an Aaron Rodgers decision, or it was done to appease Aaron Rodgers. Look, I could understand in the past when Aaron was with the Packers, they weren't running all their decisions by him. They never drafted a wide receiver in the first round for him. They never got him an offensive skill position player in the first round. And I could understand after the Jordan Love situation when the Packers drafted his successor. And what happened when the Packers drafted his successor? Aaron Rodgers threatened retirement and he made a huge spectacle out of it. It's so funny that he'll go out and say that he doesn't have as much power as people think he does, but then he'll have an offensive coordinator of his choosing, a wide receiver of his choosing, and hell, the New York Jets are about to swing an unnecessary trade for Davante Adams. Why? Because Aaron Rodgers wants it. Look, Jets fans, I understand it's fun to reunite Aaron Rodgers with Davante Adams, but when you take a look at the New York Jets wide receiver core, it's without a doubt a top 10 wide receiver core. You can even make an argument that's a top 7 wide receiver core. It's not necessary. It's just fun to have Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson on a team. But again, that's being done to appease Aaron Rodgers. Like I said in my previous video, there is a chance that this turns into the 2022 Las Vegas Raiders, where the interim head coach steps up with the starting quarterback and leads this team to 10 wins and a playoff appearance. But at the same time, you don't win Super Bowls by firing your head coach in the middle of the season when he's clearly doing a good job. Just like New York Jets players are saying, what the hell does this even accomplish? How does this fix the offense? Let me know in the comment section down below if you believe what Aaron Rodgers is saying here, or if you think he's lying to us as well. I like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.